I arrived at Kurogane Station at 21:07 on a Tuesday in June with a single carry-on, a dying phone, and a question that felt heavier than my bag. Why did my mother vanish from a job she never skipped? She had cleaned rooms for the business hotels around the station for 8 years, steady, quiet work. Her supervisor called me that morning. She clocked in, she didn't clock out. No video of her leaving, no sign-in at any other property. A person can't dissolve between a punch card and a hallway camera, but the screen showed exactly that. The corridor, then nothing. The hotel I booked was called the Kurogane Sun Route, but the sign had lost a few letters, so it glowed like Kuro Route, the missing syllables flickering on the wet asphalt. The reception smelled of citrus cleaner and dust. A fern leaned toward a vending machine that hummed like it had been awake for years. Single, non-smoking, I told the clerk. He was young, with an apologetic smile he seemed to have practiced in a mirror. Breakfast ticket, he asked. I shook my head. Late checkout, I shook my head again. He slid a key card across the counter and added, our bathrooms have the older unit baths. If the water runs brown for a second, let it clear, city pipes. I almost said she would have told me that. My mother loved small warnings. Don't drink the first cup from the tap. Don't sleep with the curtains open. Don't answer the door until you check the peephole twice. I swallowed it, nodded, rode the elevator up. Room 705 was like any budget room in 100 towns. A desk with a kettle, a bed with a single pillow, a window fogged by its own double glazing. The unit bath's door had a little frosted panel set in the middle, a rectangle of milky glass meant to leak a sliver of light. I clicked the switch. The bathroom light came on, a clean rectangle on the fogged glass, everything ordinary. I'd planned to walk back to the staff entrance of the other hotel, retrace my mother's last route, ask questions, put my face in front of people who might remember her face. Instead, I sat on the bed and didn't move for 30 minutes. The silence in that room wasn't empty. It felt full of someone else's breath they'd forgotten to take with them. At 22:01, my phone buzzed, no new messages. My mother's last text was 3 days old, a photo of a hydrangea bush, blue like a bruise. Big rain means big flowers, she'd written, a little heart I never answered. I lay down, turned off the lamp, and waited for sleep to take me the way the elevator had, smoothly, without questions. It didn't. I turned my pillow to the cool side. I tried counting stations on the Osaka loop line. I watched the red light on the air conditioner blink a steady heartbeat. Then I heard footsteps, not outside in the corridor, not above, inside. A soft, deliberate pacing, the sound cotton makes when it rubs tile, almost frictionless, almost damp. The steps came from behind the unit bath door, the small sealed cubicle that manufacturers drop into a room like a plastic coffin. Bath, sink, toilet as one piece caulked to the floor. I told myself it was the air conditioner rattling the shower curtain. I told myself it was the old pipes tick-ticking. I told myself anything I could think of that didn't start with someone. The steps paused, then resumed. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, not random. Not the scuttle of a drip, a person who had nothing else to do. I sat up. The bed creaked and the sound behind the door stopped, like whoever was inside was listening back. My hand found the switch on the wall. I flipped the bathroom light on. The little frosted panel brightened into milk, the rectangle glowing. Something large moved across it, not a shape you try to name. No shoulder, no face, nothing you can draw, just the light gone dark. A density that swallowed the rectangle whole for a breath, then slid away, as if it had pressed its body to the glass just to let me know it could. Hello, I said, because I am the sort of idiot who talks to doors. Nothing. I told myself I would open it. I told myself I had to. My mother had worked inside rooms like this for 8 years, and if I couldn't open one door, what did I think I'd accomplish walking the city for answers? I set my palm to the handle. Another breath, the handle was warm, as if someone had just used it and not long enough ago. I turned it. The door didn't open. The catch moved. The seal stuck. Unit bath settled. The clerk had said nothing like that, but someone would have said it if I'd asked. I tried again. The second turn released the catch and the door swung inward a hand's width. That's when the smell hit me, a chemical tang under something else, a mineral note like coins sucked dry. Water pooled on the floor. Not a puddle from a shower head left on, but a thin, honest film that wobbled under the light. It rippled toward my toes. I pushed the door wider. At first I didn't see anything except reflection. My own outline trembling on the wet floor, the crooked plastic mirror over the sink, the little chain on the tub drain. Then I saw the coin. A single old 1 yen aluminum coin sat on the bathtub ledge, dull and pitted, and threaded through its hole was a red string. No, not string. Thread. A clear, old woman thread that had lived in a tin for years, the spool long lost. The thread ran from the coin to the mirror and disappeared behind it. As if someone had stitched the room shut and then tidied the seam. I leaned closer. The mirror was the kind that's glued to the unit's plastic, not a cabinet. The thread passed cleanly behind it anyway, like it had no interest in how things were made. My throat closed. I reached to pluck the coin. The thread tugged back, not hard, just enough to say not yet. The footsteps resumed, behind the mirror. I slammed the door and ran, pajamas, bare feet. Key card on the bed where I dropped it. No elevator. I hit the stairwell. Concrete metal rail, the same emergency exit diagram taped to each landing. I saw none of it, just counted flights until the numbers gave up and the lobby let me out into light and vending machines and the fern. The clerk looked up with that rehearsed smile that broke when he saw me. "Are you okay?" I tried the truth and found I had no grammar for it. "There's water, a leak." That part was true. "I'm sorry, could you?" He grabbed a master key and a towel and followed me into the elevator like we were going upstairs to fold a small problem between us. In the room everything looked normal. Bedsheet, kettle, window fogged. But the bathroom door stood ajar and inside the floor wore a thin shine, a skin of water as even as lacquer. The clerk made a soft sound that wasn't a word. He put the towel down and the water didn't seem to like it. It curled around the cloth instead of soaking in. "I'll call maintenance," he said. "We can move you." He didn't mention the coin, he didn't mention the thread, he didn't push the mirror, he didn't have to. We both saw it, and seeing something together can sometimes be worse than seeing it alone. "I'm fine," I lied. "Really, if you can just—" "Of course," he said, grateful for the script. He wiped pointlessly, bowed, fled. I stood in the doorway and listened to nothing. I could pretend the water was a spill if I wanted it badly enough. I could pretend a coin was an accident that had thread and direction and purpose. I could pretend my mother had simply decided not to be found. I stepped inside, avoiding the water. I picked up the coin and cut the thread with my teeth because my hands had decided not to, and I said out loud to the mirror, "Stop it." The thread recoiled like a hair, finally freed. The mirror reflected a woman I didn't like the look of, back in bed. I left the bathroom light on the way a child leaves a closet light on. I propped the door with the wastebasket, not because it would help, but because I needed one thing in that room to stay where I put it. I slept. I know I did because I woke to the sound of the wastebasket skidding across tile. The bathroom light was off. I didn't remember turning it off. I didn't remember anything except a slow pressure on my chest and a swallowed word in my throat. As if a sleep paralysis had passed and had left its coat on a chair. I got up. The room was gray with pre-dawn. A train rattled the tracks outside, far enough to be polite. I went to the bathroom and flipped the switch. The light came on hard. The wastebasket was dry. The floor under it was dry. The rest of the floor was wet. The coin lay in the tub again. The same coin, or one like it, a new thread through its hole. This time not red, white. Like cotton twisted into fishing line. It ran from the coin straight down the drain as if the tub was a mouth that had learned to floss. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it with wet fingers, stupidly relieved I could do that normal act. Unknown number, don't pull the second thread, it's counted. My heart did the falling thing elevators do when they're too fast. "Who is this?" I typed. 3 dots, then, "If you want your mother back, go to where hydrangeas drink river water. Ask for the hill that has no station." "The hill that has no station," I said, because saying it might pin it to sense. I searched the phrase, nothing useful. The battery icon suggested better hobbies. I dressed and went down to the street. The station plaza at 500 was a designed loneliness. Metal benches, a bus schedule everyone forgot to read, a convenience store with a clerk whose face looked like a kindness he kept giving away. The sky was the color you get when everything hasn't decided what it wants to be yet. My mother had texted me a hydrangea bush, big rain, big flowers. Osaka grows them everywhere, but there's a kind that sips from canals, their roots at the exact lip of the water where city becomes not city. I walked where the city let me, then where it didn't. The canal smelled metallic and green. At its elbow a slope rose, small, abrupt, the sort of hill you only notice when your shoes ask you why you're making them work. At the base of the slope, a little neighborhood shrine crouched in a pocket of trees. The kind of place the city pities and remembers with a fence and a lantern. The wooden torii peeled in long flakes. A bell rope hung. The purple cloth behind it had bleached into a memory of purple. Hydrangeas crowded the stone basin where people washed their hands before prayer, their heads bowed, heavy with last week's rain. A man was already there, sweeping. Not old, but he moved like each bone had done this motion long enough to learn a shape. He didn't look up when I stepped under the torii. He didn't look up when I washed my hands, the left, the right, the mouth, the handle, all the shrine posters politely tell you. He only looked up when I drew the bell rope and let it thump the brass. You shouldn't pull what's been counted, he said, and the broom stopped. I'm looking for my mother, I said. I held my phone out, the hydrangea photo stupid in my palm. She works at the hotels by the station. She went missing. Someone told me to come here. What's her name? He asked. Asako Miyahara. I stopped because saying more felt like feeding the wrong thing. The man nodded like names mattered to him. He set the broom aside and stepped past me to the ladle shelf. He took a ladle, scooped water, poured it over the stone ledge, and the water didn't fall like water. It spread and clung, a film that crossed the stone from edge to edge and then crawled down, a slow-moving skin. Do you hear it? He asked. I listened. The city murmured. A crow made its ugly genius talk. Somewhere a delivery truck exhaled. I hear. He shook his head. No, close your eyes. Listen for the counting. I closed my eyes because people who sweep shrines in the morning have earned the right to ask me for strange favors. At first there was nothing but my own pulse, then something behind it, patient and dry, like fingernails touching beads one by one by one. The more I listened, the less it sounded like fingers, and the more it sounded like coins being set on wood. You've touched a thread, the man said. It will want you to touch another. I cut it, I said. The first thread, red. He made a soft sound. Good red ties, white tallies. They stitched your room, it stitched you back. My room, I said, because the word stitched made me think of the frosted panel and a dark shape that had once filled it. What is it? He didn't answer. He pointed instead to the hydrangeas and the water that had become a skin. This place sits on an old ground before the rail. Before the apartments, there was a hill with a little stop for carts. Not a station then, not a station now. People still call it a station out of habit they don't remember having. But the ground remembers, so do the things that live in the remembering. The hill that has no station, I said, and the man nodded once like a teacher tolerating a slow student. You want your mother, he said. Then don't write your name where it can be read. I don't understand. Good, he said again like it was a kind of blessing. He reached into the pocket of his jacket and brought out a small envelope, the kind shrines sell amulets in. On its face was a printed stenciled character for stop. He pressed it into my palm. Keep this in your left shoe. If you come to a place that wants you, you'll feel it heat. Where am I going? I asked. He looked past me as if someone I couldn't see had asked him a simpler question, and he preferred that one. Up, he said, always up. The hill is small until it is large. At the top, there's a mirror that isn't glass. Don't pull the second thread. If you do, you'll be counted, and those who are counted are easier to put away. Put away where? He smiled once thin. Anywhere that requires tallying. I almost laughed because fear and laughter share a door. I tucked the envelope into my left sneaker. It felt like nothing. Maybe that was the point. The hill wasn't a hill for the first 15 minutes. It was a series of bike lanes that pretended to rise and then decided not to. Then the city fell away the way a jacket falls off your shoulders when you take the second arm out. The sidewalks loosened into pocked concrete. The houses lifted their chins like they'd found better air. One house had a vending machine with a plastic panda taped to the side, someone's joke that had outlived the person who taped it. My foot burned. Not hot enough to hurt, just warm enough to be noticed. I stopped and switched the envelope to my hand. The warmth went away like someone had decided not to touch me. I looked up. The slope ahead no longer pretended. Trees crowded the fence line. A set of stairs cut the hill like a zipper. At the top, a gate that wasn't quite a gate, concrete pillars with the outline of a name someone had chiseled off. By the gate, a rack of mirrors, the kind you see on blind corners to keep cars from cracking each other's ribs. 5 rounds, 5 angles, 5 eyes to watch the curve. Someone had dragged them here from the road, their poles lined like reeds. The mirrors didn't show the path behind me. They showed me over and over the same height, the same tilt, but in each one my face was a little more washed out, as if the climb had scrubbed color from me and left no soap. A thread hung from the nearest mirror. White, it fell and didn't reach the ground. Don't pull the second thread, I said aloud, because hearing my voice still meant it belonged to me. I walked under the knot gate. The air changed the way air does when you step into a place that believes in itself. The wind fell stop-still, though the trees kept moving. The sound of my breath grew louder. The world picked up a hum I felt in my molars. I climbed the stairs. At the top, the hill opened into a circle of packed earth where nothing wanted to grow. In the center, a basin made of something that looked like stone until you looked longer and saw it was old concrete. Original to a town that had expected a different future. The basin held water that wasn't water. Brown, thick, the color of coins after mouths. A dragon spout that should have fed it had rusted shut. Something else fed it now. I checked my left shoe. The paper was a small, cool comfort again, not a warning. I didn't feel brave. That's a word stories use after the fact. Mother, I said, because sometimes you are a fool on purpose. The basin breathed, not a trick of wind. The skin on it pulled inward and relaxed, the surface rising and falling in a long, slow exhale. With each breath, the faintest clink sounded at the bottom, metal on stone, and the smell of old copper lifted and settled. On the far side of the circle, a wooden door stood upright with no walls around it, a builder's leftover, a stage prop. It leaned slightly, supported by a wedge of concrete. There was no handle, no hinges. A panel of frosted glass sat in the center. I knew that glass. Not literally, but in the way you know your own bad habits. The door belonged to a unit bath that had never been installed. Someone had set it here the way a shrine sets a boundary, a suggestion you can choose to ignore or not. A thread ran from the door to the basin, red this time, and from the hinge side, imaginary hinges. The white thread that I had been warned about disappeared into the earth and the mirror and my mouth at the same time. Because that's what it felt like, a pull toward tallying. Don't write your name where it can be read, the man had said. Names get written on strange paper, in ledgers, on headstones, on mirrors. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. If you knock, it will answer in the voice you want. Don't open for that voice. I looked back down the steps I'd climbed. The city was gone. The hill had decided to be large. I stood before the door with no walls and the basin that breathed like a quiet lung. I put my palm to the frosted glass the way I had in my hotel room, because some lessons insist on repeating until you give a better answer. Something pressed back, not a hand, not exactly. The pressure didn't have the shape of fingers. It had the shape of need. It pressed the glass and the film of sweat on my palm squeaked under it, and for a second I thought it would push through. That the glass would become a skin that both of us could wrongly share. My mother had small hands. She wore a cheap watch with a blue band. She hummed when she worked. She said my name the way I wanted to be said. Aya, said a voice from behind the glass. Sweetheart, you took your time. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The voice wasn't wrong. That was the trouble. Open, it said, and the door with no hinges trembled like a dog that shouldn't be given the treat but will be anyway. I stepped back. My fingers left a print that didn't belong to me. 5 ovals, a hand that wasn't my hand, darker than any mark sweat should leave. Each oval had a little circle pressed inside it, as if a coin had kissed it briefly. Aya, the voice gentled, it's raining, you'll get wet. I am not brave, but I know how to keep a rule if someone sweeps a shrine at dawn and hands it to me like an amulet. Don't open for that voice, don't pull the second thread. Don't write your name. I bowed to a door that didn't deserve it. I turned and walked down 1 step, 2. The air lightened a fraction. On the 3rd step, the door made a sound I never want to hear again. The sound of fingernails tapping coins, one by one, counting out the price of a person. I kept walking. You don't run from a hill that knows your name. You give it your back in your silence, and you remember which shoe carries the stop sign you can't read but still obey. At the bottom of the steps, the knot gate waited. The mirrors watched. In the nearest one, I saw my face, not paler, not scrubbed, but my eyes, the irises, had a new halo around them, a copper ring so faint I could have blamed the morning light if blaming were the thing that would save me. I blinked. The ring blinked with me. Okay, I said to the hill. You want a tally. I want a mother. Let's see whose ledger runs out first. The vending machine by the panda took my coin on the first try. The drink I chose was barley tea because my mother would have said it was good for me and because I needed something that tasted like something the world knew how to make. When I reached the station, the clerk looked up. He seemed relieved I was a person who had come back. How was the room? He asked. Could I get a late check out? I said. And I smiled the way people smile when they are building a lie they plan to use as a bridge. Just for today, He nodded and tapped his keyboard. Of course. Oh, I added as if I just remembered, a small warning, a little kindness. And could you send a message if someone asks for me? Tell Asako Miyahara I'll meet her where the hydrangeas drink the river. Tell her Aya says the ledger is closed. The clerk blinked twice. People do that when something lands near them and chooses not to bite. I'll make a note, he said. I went back upstairs, left shoe heavier by a piece of paper that didn't weigh anything, and opened the bathroom door to see whether the coin would be in the tub or on the ledge or somewhere I hadn't thought to look yet. It was nowhere. The thread had gone slack. The mirror reflected only the part of me I was willing to show. In the silence that followed, I heard something I recognized from the shrine. Not nails on coins this time. Coins on wood, a ledger closing, a book shut with a careful hand. I breathed once, twice, like a person who has just remembered they are allowed. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tonight, last train. The hill with no station becomes a station once a day. Bring a name to trade. I typed whose. The dots bloomed, then vanished, then bloomed again. Yours if you don't choose. The message sits on my screen like a dare. Unknown number. Tonight, last train. The hill with no station becomes a station once a day. Bring a name to trade. I spend the morning pretending I have things to do. I sip barley tea until the taste turns from comfort to cardboard. I walk the station concourse and read signs for places my body knows but my head can't picture. I buy a pen and a small notebook because you can't go hunting for a person without somewhere to put the things you'll need to remember. At noon I go back to the pocket shrine by the canal. The man with the broom is there again, as if he never left. He watches me wash my hands, and when I bow, he nods once like I've done something right and therefore dangerous. I got a message, I tell him. Last train, bring a name. That sounds like it, he says. The book, he says, as if naming it spoils nothing. Every town has one if the ground is old enough. They call it different things. Here it keeps to the hill and uses the shape of a station to make itself understood. It tallies what belongs, what's owed, what's missing. It is patient. And patience looks like kindness until it doesn't. I don't want to give it anyone's name, I say. Not mine, not hers, not anyone. Good, he says again, and that word is starting to sound like a warning that appreciates itself. He reaches under the offertory box and brings up a little cloth pouch. Salt, he says, coarse for crossings. I take it. It's heavier than it should be, like all the grains inside know they're working overtime tonight. What happens if I don't bring a name? I ask. It will offer you yours, he says. You'll think you've kept your promise. You won't notice what else it wrote down while you were busy being proud. Then what do I bring? He considers this. Bring the name of the thing you want to close. The book, I ask. The habit, he says. The arrangement, the way your city learned to misplace people. Does it have a name? You tell me, he says. And goes back to sweeping like the conversation belonged to the dust. I don't know the word for a ledger that eats. I sit on a bench under the torii and write until the pen's nib warms my fingers. Kurogane ledger looks clumsy. The counter sounds like a bar in a diner. The tally is too soft. The broom pauses once behind me like the man is listening, then resumes. In the margin, I write what the unknown number wrote to me earlier. Don't pull the second thread. Don't open for that voice. Don't write your name where it can be read. I underline each twice because I'm the sort who leaves signs for herself in case a later version forgets. The day folds itself to evening without ceremony. A rain starts and doesn't commit. The city lights up and decides to be pretty for commuters. At 22:37, the clerk at my hotel calls the room and asks if I'd like a wake-up call for tomorrow. I almost laugh. I tell him no and thank him for being the kind of person who offers reasonable things. I lace my left shoe tighter over the paper charm. I tuck the salt pouch inside my jacket. I write a last line in my notebook. Asterisk, if I have to choose, I will not. It's not a sentence, it's a rope. At 23:11, I leave the hotel and walk toward the canal. Hydrangeas breathe like lanterns at the water's lip, ruined pearls under sodium lights. Above them, the slope is only a slope until the pavement starts to argue with itself and the trees remember they were here first. The mirrors by the knot gate watch me arrive. In each one my face looks like a different decision. My left shoe warms. I move the salt pouch to my left hand without thinking. The paper charm presses my arch like a coin that wants to be spent carefully. Up, I tell the dark, the stairs accept this. At the top, the circle of earth sits exactly where I left it, the dragon-lipped basin, a brown lung counting slowly. When I get close, I hear it again, the clink of coin on wood, the patience of numbers. The door with the frosted panel leans on its wedge. Tonight there's a sign above it, a little rectangle of enamel cracked through the middle. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Akiano, not in service. The word not has been half scraped off. The service part gleams, the air changes, not temperature, texture. Sound thins, as if everything within the circle has been swept of the small noises that let you know you exist. Then from somewhere not seen, a bell rings. Not a shrine bell, a station bell, once, twice, three times, slow and formal. The enamel sign's crack looks for breath like a second hand moving. The hill becomes platform. It happens the way weather does. A yellow line paints itself along the edge of the packed earth with a calm certainty I wish I had. A waist-high fence grows in from nothing, the kind with cold metal bars and no personality. A post blinks, last train in plain white characters. Then flickers to a station name I can't read because it won't settle into any alphabet my eyes want. The mirrors tuck their faces away and reflect only the black beyond the hill. Headlights bloom in that black, too low, too close together. A shape size in a small two-car train, older than a memory and cleaner than time deserves. Its windows show nothing. Its body wears a color new paint can't make anymore. On the front, where you expect a destination, a lacquered placard says accounts and below it local. The doors shiver open with the sound of paper being turned. No one gets off. No one is on, or the nothing is on pretends well. My left shoe heats like a warning fired through cloth. The unknown number gives me nothing new. 3 dots, then nothing. The phone's battery makes a thin red lie about how long it plans to stay awake. Okay, I say to my pulse. Okay, I step across the yellow line and up into the car. As my left foot touches the threshold, the charm in my shoe becomes a coin on a stove. I hiss and the doors slide toward each other, not fast, not slow, a mouth that wants to be kind about closing. I hop through. And the panels kiss behind me with the barest brush of thread. The car smells not of people, no old coffee, no hair, no damp umbrella. It smells like a library with all the books bound in paper money. The floor is clean, but where has blessed it, where feet would have learned to stand? The seats are the old vinyl kind, too firm to forgive your spine. The windows don't reflect me. They reflect a version who arrived earlier and left wiser. I don't like her. At the far end. A conductor stands at an open half door, hat brim level, face politely blurred the way bright sun blurs a photograph. In his gloved hand, not a punch, not scissors, a little hammer, a coin hammer, the kind temple offices used to tap seals onto offerings, the kind accountants in period dramas used to align stacks of cash. Tickets, he says, and his voice is like a dictionary read aloud. I don't have one, I say. Not a problem, he replies. Holds out a small lacquer tray I didn't see him summon. On it, a strip of card the color of old teeth, a stub of charcoal, a string threaded through a hole. Write the name to be tallied, he says. Tie the string through the hole, I will stamp it for travel. He says write the way someone else might say yield. My mother, I begin and stop because he would like that and I would hate giving it. I think of the broom man's words, bring the name of the thing you want to close. I take the charcoal, the card is dry as a warning. My hand shakes and then decides not to. I print in messy block letters because the part of me that believes in ritual wants clean lines and the part of me that believes in rage wants to be loud. The ledger of Kurogane. I turn the card over and write it again and below it smaller, close account. I pinch the string through the hole and knot it badly on purpose. My left shoe cools a degree. I lift the tray to hand it back. The conductor tilts his blurred face as if the idea of being read is familiar and tires him. That is not a person, he says. That is what keeps people, I say. Close it. He waits a thoughtful beat. Then he taps his little hammer once on the lacquer rim, clink, and the sound is so small it shouldn't mean anything except the car relaxes half a breath and the windows decide to reflect me again. Very well, he says, for you, one accounting. He reaches into a tall book hanging from a chain at his belt. I didn't notice the book before. It's thin as an apology and heavy as a oiled hinge. He slips my card between its pages like a leaf you don't want to remember but know you will. He taps the closed book once with a hammer and tucks it back. Please find a seat, he says. Do not speak to passengers who use voices you prefer. The car shudders and moves. It doesn't move like trains do. It moves like furniture being pushed across a wood floor. A hum, a catch, a second hum. The black beyond the windows multiplies into grays, then into a geometry of things that are not quite streets, not quite tunnels. We pass a platform whose sign says wake, then one named drowse, then forget, where a single pair of shoes sits neatly together as if their owner stepped out of them to catch a different train. Accounts local. The announcement says in a voice that is someone's favorite aunt. Next stop, missing. I grip the pole, and the pole is warm where other hands have worried it over the years. Not cold metal, not polished, warm. The salt pouch in my jacket softens at the edges the way cloth does near a stove. There are no people on the seats until there are, not a trick, not a jump, just the slow agreement of shapes with the idea of being seen. A man in a suit reading a blank newspaper. A child with her hair in two braids, turning a toy that doesn't exist around in her palms. An old woman counting out coins that never add up. None of them look up. Their eyes are empty of copper rings and full of something cloudier, the way water looks when the silt hasn't decided where to settle. At the far end, directly opposite the conductor, a woman sits with both hands in her lap, thumbs pressed together. Blue watch band, small hands, shoulders I know better than my own. Mom, I say quietly. It feels like speaking in a church when the choir hasn't arrived yet. She tilts her head, listening to a voice that is not mine. Conductor's gloved hand lifts, delicate as a doctor handling glass. Please, he says, do not speak directly until the account is presented. People misunderstand balances when the numbers are still walking to their chairs. What balance? I ask. Departure, he says. Arrival, cost, credit, what's kept, what's owed, what needs crossing out so the columns will forgive each other. I'm not crossing anyone out, I say. Everyone says that, he says, not unkindly. The train hums through a darkness that is not tunnel and not night. The windows show a hill you could climb in 3 minutes if it liked you, then the hill opened into a mouth of stairs that never stop. A clock with no numbers, a mirror with a thread hanging perfectly still in wind that doesn't blow. The woman with the blue watch band raises her head. She doesn't look at me. She looks past me the way people look when a memory they forgot to have walks into the room. Next stop, missing. The aunt voice says happy to do the job she was given. The doors open without sound. The platform is not a platform, it's a kitchen, a corridor, a doorway with a frosted panel, a table with no chairs, every place someone was last seen but not last alive. No one gets off. The conductor taps his hammer once and the doors sigh closed, reluctant the way curtains are in afternoon light. He turns his blurred face to me. Passenger, he says, prepare. For what? I ask because nothing about me is ready. For audit, he says, end of line. A new sign rolls into the window where the night is. Audit blooms in white and thinks about being kind, then decides not to. The woman with the blue watch band finally turns. Her face is not coin-eyed, not nailed, not wrong. It's my mother's face as it looked the day she taught me how to knot thread, patient, amused by my thumbs, a little tired at the edges. Aya, she says. And her voice is not the trap in the unit bath door. It's the voice she used when I was 3 and stuck between the sofa and the wall, the voice that said, move your knee first. There, see, that's all. I step and the conductor's glove lifts. Not yet, he says gently. The book has to read out loud. It is fussy about procedure. He opens the thin, heavy book. It creaks in a voice too old for paper. He does not read rows or columns. He reads as if speaking to the floorboards. Asako Miyahara. Entered Kurogane Business Hotel corridor. Debited a watch band, a habit of humming a hydrangea photo. Credited 8 years of rooms correctly made, 86 left behind, umbrellas returned, 1 daughter saved from a door that answers in the voice you want. I swallow hard enough to hurt. He continues. In arrears, 1 exit. I'll pay it, I say. I brought a name, close the ledger, put the exit on me. His head tilts. You brought a name. You did not bring a signature. I'm not writing mine, I say. Someone must carry the leaving, he says. If you decline, the book will assign. Assign who? He taps the book with the little hammer. The sound is smaller than thought. Whoever is the easiest to put away. My left shoe burns so hot I can feel the outline of the charm. The salt pouch weighs as much as a pocket-sized brick. I look down the car. The braids on the child's head flicker like weeds in a current. The old woman's coins finally add to something and she looks relieved and then bored. My mother's blue watch band turns her wrist into a minor sky. Take me, I say. Write Aya if you have to, take mine. No, my mother says, and it's a knife made of soft things. No, sweetheart, you don't get to speak yet, the conductor tells her politely like a teacher correcting a friend. Then listen to me, my mother says to him. The way she would tell a stain it had misjudged a shirt. I am owed a return ticket. On what basis? He asks, genuinely curious, not mocking. On the basis of work, she says, of all the rooms I uncounted, of every bed I smoothed that had nothing in it but a person who wanted not to be seen, on the basis of a daughter who came to a hill and didn't lie to a door. The conductor turns a page like a man rearranging weather. Not standard, he says. Nothing about her is, my mother replies, and now she looks at me, and there is an apology piled gently in her eyes next to a joke I haven't heard yet. The bell rings once. The sign says audit and refuses to be anything else. The conductor sets the little hammer down. With both gloves he reaches for the white thread that runs from the spine of his book into nothing. He lifts it and it hums, a tight string plucked by a small god. He pinches it between forefinger and thumb and looks at me through his blur. Passenger, he says. A trade then, not a name, an accounting, something that balances something so the book doesn't have to. What do you want? I ask because I'm done with riddles. An exit for an entrance, he says simply. Bring us one that doesn't belong, cross it out. The hill will be smaller tomorrow and your mother can walk down it. A picture arrives in me uninvited, a unit bath door in a different room, a frosted panel, a hand that leaves coin-shaped ovals when it presses glass, an entrance that isn't part of a building, just set where someone needed a way in. Where, I ask. Where the hydrangeas drink the river, he says, the phrase from the message, returned like mail with a better stamp. Behind the mirror that isn't glass, you'll know it because it always opens for the voice you want. How do I cross it out, I ask. With salt, he says, and the word you wrote, make the door hear it, teach the ground the new habit. He closes the book. The white thread goes slack and then straight again as if a tide decided it had changed its mind. And if I fail, I ask. He looks at my left shoe like he can see the paper through leather. You already know what happens to people who write their names where they can be read, he says kindly. The train sighs to a stop that doesn't feel like stopping. The doors open onto a platform made of mornings. The announcement voice tries to say audit and ends up humming. Next and final, return, the aunt says, unable to help herself. My mother stands. She does not step toward me. She does not look away. Her hands are still now, the blue band quiet. Aya, she says, do not bargain with yourself. I won't, I say, though every part of me is already negotiating. Bring the wrong thing, the conductor warns as gently as anyone has ever warned me, and the hill will be very large. The doors close, the car moves. The world outside the windows makes a shape I recognize. The canal elbow, the slope. The mirrors, the knot gate, the vending machine, the panda with one plastic ear less faded than the other. The yellow line on the packed earth flickers and decides to become dirt again. The enamel sign above the leaning door cracks 1 more millimeter. We are back where we started, which is not where we were. The doors open. Night air walks in and looks around like it expected to be different. Return, the aunt voice whispers, pleased with herself. Wait, I say to the conductor. Suddenly stupidly terrified of leaving the car because people who step off trains onto hills that keep books have to do something after they've stepped, and doing something is where you can make the wrong move forever. What if something follows me down? He looks as if he would smile if he had a mouth I could see. It already has, he says. That is how love works. I step onto the earth. The doors breathe shut. The little train pulls away as if it is only making a small correction to a line on a very old map. Alone again at the circle, I pocket the charcoal, tie the salt pouch tight, and look at the door with the frosted panel leaning on its wedge. Ledger of Kurogane, I say, because it feels important to keep saying the thing I'm trying to close. Behind the panel, something presses back, not a hand, not that, a habit. And in the reflection that is not a reflection, my eyes wear their copper rings like tiny suns. I go down the stairs softly because the hill is listening. And I don't want it to know how fast my heart is going to run.